As a lot of people in this room know, social media has been the Wild West for a long time, and in particular, the comment section, right? That connective tissue between an athlete, a team, and a league, and their fans and the fan experience. It's also been a place of very manual, laborious labor for everybody in this room and all your teams over the years, where you're using spreadsheets and doing manual processes, trying to keep up with the speed and scale of social, which is nearly impossible, right? I think we've all lived this dream or this nightmare. And then what happens is you don't have any time for the content and the creativity and the strategy. I think everybody in this room, talking last night at happy hours, experienced this. The good news is technology is changing all that. It's giving time back. And in this mad AI world we live in, whether you view it as exciting or trepidation, if there's one place where it's truly making a difference, it's in the comment sections. It's where technology is allowing, it's handling the science, so people like this and their teams and people like you can do the authentic art of managing those comments and the people that follow you. So this is what we're going to break down a little bit today and get some time back from that technology. We're going to start with some introductions with you, Jared, down there.
Yeah, you bet. Hi, everybody. I'm Jared Harding. I am the founder and CEO of a brand strategy company here based in Denver for sports teams and organizations and athletes called Tootly. I spent 17 years with the Nuggets and the Avs and the Mammoth at Kroenke Sports. I was the head of content for a long time, then the head of digital as well.
Hi everyone, Ian Nolan. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Science and Sport. Been there for 6 months. Prior to that, I spent just over 7 years at Manchester United, where I was running the media, marketing, and some of the commercial teams. Had a few startups before that, and then I started my career in Silicon Valley, actually building websites and apps for Yahoo. It's me.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh. So I'm COO and co-founder of 10 Toes. We're a sports marketing agency with offices in different parts of the world. Predominantly we look after leading talent, so your big name players. Then we look after rights holders, so lots of clubs, leagues, federations, and then brands who want to activate in sport as well. My previous life had me at Tottenham Hotspur, EPL team for those of you that know. Unfortunately, very much at the wrong end of the table, so I can see a few smirks on faces for those of you that obviously are very aware of what the EPL table looks like at the moment.
We're going to go and hide away.
Yeah, definitely. Well, ask me again at about sort of 3:30, let's say. And then prior to that, I worked at UEFA, so the European governing body of football. Again, looking after all of the different social channels that are run by that governing body.
And hi everyone, I'm Caroline Deisley. I'm the Director of Social Media for the Denver Broncos. And similarly, I started in 2016 right after the Broncos won Super Bowl 50. And then we didn't make the playoffs for 9 years, and I had to spend a really long time telling everyone it wasn't my fault. And so we are now back in the playoffs and had a really exciting year last year.
It's funny, I always like to remind Ian that when I was working with him at Manchester United, all there was a lot of losing. He moves on, they're third in the table. It's just a strange little thing. All right, let's get into it. So Caroline, we're going to start with you because you have been at the Broncos for 11 years, AKA 1,000 social years if you do the math, or 100. You've seen a lot of change. So you've been there probably before there was any tech, some tech, better tech. Tell us like a tale or a story of like that tech coming in and making your life better, giving you time.
Definitely. Well, when I talk to interns all the time, or if I'm talking to a university, they don't believe that TikTok didn't exist when I started. But not only that, we didn't have Instagram stories, and that feels like such a normal access of it. So I told people who were here last year, I'm not going to take over the OG panel because they handled all of those glory days of the stuff that we used to do. But truly track stuff in spreadsheets. I have so many pieces of paper with random data that I can't tell you what it was for. And now all of that's streamlined. So the amount of time I spent trying to keep track of everything that was going on as a one-woman social team, we now have a much bigger team that's helping, and we have the technology to do all of that for us and really create the ability to have better content and not be stuck in the spreadsheets trying to figure out what it all means.
Were you really one person when you started? It's the one thing you learn, we all know this, right? You think these major brands like the Broncos have armies doing this, and you come in and we find out it's two people and, a hope and a dream and a lot of work, so it's amazing. A little story about Caroline here. If we look over here at the Lombardi trophies, last night over happy hours, she was telling me that she literally drove those here in rainy traffic in her car. And I couldn't believe it. I thought they would come with like white gloves and guys in a security outfit, but
If you know me, I'm a bad driver too, so it was really stressful.
Bad news. Bad news. All right, moving forward, lots of fraud in these comment sections in social media in your channels as we're in this room today. In fact, $261 million in fraud in 2020 is $2.1 billion last year, so it's 8x'd. Fake ticket sales, fake merchandise, illegal TV and streaming links, we all live this. Ian, I know you feel really strongly about this topic. This is where technology and AI is truly changing things, because instead of this being a problem, it's becoming a commercial opportunity. But take us through that, how you think about that.
Yeah, we started with you guys in 2019, really on the fundamentals of just cleaning up our social. And at Manchester United, we were posting about 70,000 posts a year across all our socials, so it was vast, and obviously the engagement, the comments was vast. And we started by trying to clean up abuse, largely for players, just to protect them. But we realised there was a lot, as you said, there was a lot of other, what do we want to call it, spurious type of content in there. Not only merchandise, so fake merchandise, illegal streams, which obviously doesn't help us, doesn't help the Premier League, pornography links, like all of these things that made us realise we actually have a responsibility to our fans to clear a lot of that up. So we started with you guys fundamentally just cleaning up and trying to make it a safer space for our fans. But what we realised over the years, and I think you guys were bringing out new products and had sort of opened our eyes to what we could do with this, and how we could transfer what's a sort of a massive cloud of sort of black cloud above us, if you think about all the social comments and engagement, and start to create business value from it. So we started very simply just scraping and creating daily sentiment reports, just how the fans are feeling. If we launched a new kit, how did they feel about it? If we sold a player, how did they feel about it? So it was just us, just enabling us to sort of understand how the fans are feeling. But then we started looking at how we could drive value from the comments as well. So where there was a fan complaining about a Man United shirt, for example, they might have got that had the wrong badge or the wrong name on the back, didn't come from us, but a lot of fans think they bought it from an official source. We could use that to either reply or to post the actual link to our store, the actual official link. Again, we were doing this all manually at the beginning, and just before I left, as you know, Erik, we were talking about how do we automate that, or how do we semi-automate it with a human in a loop, so that we can actually get a sort of readout of all the fake merch comments that we've had on our accounts, and then start to reply. And if you think about that, then black cloud of negativity actually becomes a positive force, has business value for you. So yeah, we were just trying to figure out from 2019, where it was just clear up the abuse. 2025, just before I left, we were thinking about it as a real business value driver for us.
Yeah, I think fraud's a great example of the evolution of where the tech is making things better, right? So at first you're just trying to swipe away these illegal merchandise links or whatever, and then the technology can do it. It's a nice step up, right? Then there's technology that can alert you it's happening in real time, so then you can chase down the sources. And now there's tech where you can respond to people with the correct link, and so you protect the fans from scams, better experience of the fans, club makes more money, right? Which they don't have to share with the league. This is a good model. This is like a great example, emblematic of how the tech is changing things for the better. And you don't need any more time to do it, right? This is about freeing up time. Your team with that kind of technology wouldn't have to do that anymore. They would be focused on the next post.
Yeah, I didn't say this. The beginning story was when I joined, we had a match where Paul Pogba missed a penalty in the 80th minute or something, and we spent 8 hours manually cleaning up, reporting abuse, working with Twitter, trying to take things down. And when we thought the job was done, another 1,000 posts came in, another 10,000 posts came in, and we realised the scale it was too much for us to do manually, and that's why we started looking for automated and AI-powered solutions that can help us scale it.
Yeah, good. And I know everybody here is some very big brands with huge follower bases, but when you deal with the Man United, when Ronaldo was playing there, when we first started working together, he would sneeze and we would get 1 million comments in literally 2 to 3 hours. If you could imagine dealing with that without technology, you'd be dead. So
I think I might just add to Ian's points there. I was asked in the last couple of weeks by a client how much time, I think, even just the base layer of not needing to manually go in and clean it up, how much time they think that saves. And I had no answer apart from loads, because you don't have to manually go in and do it, number one. But actually what came out of that as the follow-up was actually, and I'll keep the people definitely anonymized, actually the fact that that person who's the director doesn't get in touch to email about anything that happens in our comment section or responds, or the fact it doesn't create any further work, is also success in itself. And I know that's probably like the entry level, but maybe for lots of the teams here, it's quite relevant to even just sort of go, well, even just not having it as a problem or a potential problem is success. And then if you do have more time, you can then look at how you turn it into something which can then help from a business perspective. But just not having it as a problem before it becomes a problem feels like success at the most sort of entry level.
True. I mean, there's a lot of way to measure it. There's time back. We're all probably not getting more headcount in our social teams anytime soon, right? So you need the super empowering technology to do it. And then it goes from a cost center, your comment section, to a revenue center, right? You can start to actually merchandise things in there. And the fans are getting a better experience, so it's good for everybody.
I got an email from a fan. It was a mom of a 12-year-old boy, and she goes, Jalen Waddle is trying to sell his jersey to my son on TikTok. Can you confirm if this is real? And I had to say, no, that's not real, but I love the idea of being like, but here's the real link. Please go buy a Jalen Waddle jersey. Or can we have that fan engagement experience of, hey, we're so sorry that you got scammed. Here's a real one for you that we can send on behalf of the team.
Well, Caroline, I've got a product for you. Let's talk. I got something for you on that one. Jared, let's bring you into this a little bit. You've been around forever. You've seen so much. If tech is creating more time for the content teams, beautiful thing. What then do you think, what do you do, what do your clients do with that time? Do you double up the amount of content and the volume going out? Do you go to happy hour earlier? Like, how do you take that time and translate it into more value?
Yeah, I don't think there's a right answer to this. I can tell you my approach. So with all of this AI, largely AI tech that is out there, it is helping make so many more processes much more efficient, right? Content production, content development, distribution, editing, on and on and on, right? And to me, I always think of the end user, of our fans, in a lot of your cases, as sports teams. How?
In and out. You're in and out over there, man.
Sorry, man.
You're okay. Keep going.
How about now? So, as a sports team, if you can think about your fans and what is the best content you can produce that is valuable to them, that is entertaining to them, that is bringing them inside your organization, that's always going to be the best result. Now, making more content and distributing it to as many channels as possible can look like that. Do we have a tech person who wants to help me with my mic? But to me, it's getting really clear on what your brand identity is, what's authentic to your brand, and then how you can share more of that type of content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, probably the obvious answer, I would say, at least my default would be better content, slow it down, you have more time, you can do it deeper, sharper, versus just double timing, right? I think with the AI slop out there, everybody's a little bit heads up on the quality of the content. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And I actually think it's an opportunity. I think the brands that lean into the authentic content that does resonate with their players, with their team brand the most, and share that, I think that content will pop off on the feed more than just more highly produced, content that looks really typical, that looks like everyone else's.
Yeah, and I think there's a sort of an overlaying theme here, which is the technology doesn't have to mean it becomes not authentic, right? Which is critical today as non-authentic content gets pumped out there. It can just give you superpowers, so the technology is handling the science, teeing up your teams for the art of really engaging with the human. I think that's really the way to think about it. Plus, you've got the best looking tennis shoes in this place today, I gotta say.
Got some sick kicks.
I just can't take my eyes off them up here, they're awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right, so we're all putting a lot of activations out there in sports content, and some sports brands come across as they're just present. They're doing a nice job, but they're there. some sports brands, to use your term, really pop off. They just jump off the page, right? The quality of the content, the activation is so much different. And Josh, you've seen a lot of this. You did a Tom Brady activation. You've done FIFA. You've done the Spurs and what you're doing now. Like, what's the difference? How do you get from, okay, I'm just present, to like really killer content that jumps out?
So I think we see it across a range of different clients, which is that in a room full of brilliant creative people, as you all are, I'm going to come probably back to arguably the most boring answer, which is strategy and objective setting. So I think the best we see across the industry is when people have a really clear strategy, really clear objectives, and actually, to the point around tech freeing up the capacity for creativity, actually a really clear strategy and really clear objectives fuels creativity, because you don't waste time knowing if it's the right or wrong answer. Is it on strategy? Does it help us meet those objectives? Yes, we'll go do it then. You're not sitting there debating whether, should we do this idea or should we do that one? Which one is going to help us achieve these objectives faster underneath this strategy? And off you go. And that might be a boring answer, if you like, or at least the foundations of what the actual answer is, which is like, without those, and it still is quite remarkable to me how many different clubs, leagues, federations we work with across the board that don't necessarily have their strategy all aligned and all on one page, don't necessarily have all of their objectives. There's one EPL club that will definitely remain nameless, for example, that didn't even track their social output as to how it was even performing. And that's we're talking like a top 8 club, for example. So if you don't have clear strategy, good objectives, how can you be creative? Because you don't have the direction within which to know whether your creativity is amazing and on strategy, or just amazing but completely pointless. I think I'd even put my own hands up here, and I maybe won't ask for everyone to put hands up, but I think we've probably all, people who have run channels, been guilty of doing something that is amazing and got massive views or went viral, as everyone likes to seem to say, but actually wasn't really that on strategy, but it was a lot of fun to do and it got big numbers and we quite liked it. But did it actually deliver against objectives or strategy? Probably not. We've all probably done lots of those. Whereas what I think, to come back to your question, the answer is, if the foundations of strategy and objectives are set creatively, then like, go fly. Because you know, and you can empower the teams that you manage or work within to be creative, knowing that the creativity has direction. Otherwise, it's relatively pointless noise.
So with that,
I was just going to say that goes along with brand alignment, right? If you're aligned with the brand, everyone that's creating content knows what the brand stands for, what the vision is, then utilizing all this technology to clear the runway and make more content is enabling you to produce the most impactful content you possibly can.
Yeah, I was gonna bounce off something that Josh said there with another boring answer. When I joined United, I had all these grand plans, and I remember interviewing saying, we're going to do a Disney documentary and we're going to do this and we're going to, but actually we had none of the boring stuff. So people were just out there doing random things, and you get the odd viral hit and everyone has a good week, but there was no strategy, no alignment. So we stripped it right back to the basics. And for example, here's the boring answer. We were trying to figure out why the really creative people were just stuck in a rut, creating the same things. And it's because their jobs had become red tape, admin, approvals, like really monotonous stuff. And these were world-class video editors that were brilliant at storytelling, but they were just stuck. And if you think about a video editor, sort of this is 8-9 years ago, they were creating a video and they were hand typing subtitles underneath when we said, social. A lot of people listen to social videos without sound, so you have to put subtitles on.
8 years ago?
8 years ago, something like that. And then the person who said it wouldn't realise someone would actually have to hand type every letter and align it. And then we had 11 languages, so that had to be localised in 11 languages. And then social needed 4 different sizes and 5, and it was a nightmare. And you realise then a video editor has gone from this really creative storyteller to just process monotony, and they don't have any time to be creative. So a lot of the boring stuff we did was find tech that could do, this was really basic back then, but auto transcribe videos. It could pull out archive, for example. It could read archive and tell you what player it is based on the number on their shirt and things like that. So we started to automate the boring stuff so that when the editor started, 70% of that had already been done. And then we removed things like red tape approvals, and it was a terrible approvals process with the football department, the player, and Josh knows this because he looked after some of our players, but there was like a horrible web of red tape, which meant it killed productivity. So we stripped it right back, looked at what we could do to improve their lives and make them storytellers again. And then on social, really basic stuff like guardrails, playbooks, what to do if the result is this, what to do if the result is that. And again, it sounds really boring, but it actually allowed the social team, once you give them guardrails, then they can go off and be creative and come up with the crazy ideas because they know the boundaries. So yeah, that was my first year and a half, was basically playbooks and processes and discovering automated tech, but you've got to do it to allow your team to flourish.
Can I just offset my first boring answer with a confession, and therefore maybe a slightly more interesting one, which was to your point around working with players. When I worked for Tottenham Hotspur, we signed a player and we went all the way back through his Twitter feed right to the very start, and everyone's got some OG tweets, right? I mean, maybe that's a separate session for afterwards around original tweets we're not necessarily too proud of. But one of the players, when he didn't know what he was doing, he just tweeted, "I had spaghetti and I liked it." And you go, great, what do we do with that? But we were then signing this player. So on the way into the training ground, I'd stopped on the high road and bought a packet of spaghetti. I was like, well, instead of a normal signing photo, shirt, welcome to the club, I said, well, let's give him some spaghetti and let's recreate that. Now, my confession is, it was one of the best, I've still mentioned it now, and it's probably about 10 years ago. The player's since retired. But the confession is, that was good creative, if I say so myself, but had no strategy or objective. I couldn't tell you why it was a good thing to do, just like it was a bit of fun, and therefore we did it. So now you fast forward to the points that Ian was making. Now we have automatic distribution of content to players by various different technologies that are out there. We have your comment sections looked after, and suddenly that does mean that social teams can go and be more creative on a match day because they're not waiting for a player to sort of send a WhatsApp saying, "Can you send me that really good photo of me because it's raining and I look great today," type thing. There is
We still
the tech,
get those.
but there's the tech that allows you to do that, that allows your teams now to flourish with those foundations that I mentioned. So more confessions of social media managers at the back at the end for anyone who wants.
Yeah.
That's a great title for the next panel, by the way. I like
I like
that.
that one.
Look, creativity takes courage, that's the row, but it also takes time.
Yeah.
Right? The tech gives you the time. It's a classic model in many industries. So.
Well, and I think to the point of there's so many great content creators, there's so many great teams that are putting out good stuff, it's hard to break through the noise. And we had a vendor once include this quote in a pitch deck, and I say it all the time: content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants. And so like, you can have this amazing, great video, but if you don't figure out the best way to put it on social to have everyone cut through that noise and see it, no one's gonna see this really great viral piece of content that you had. And everyone's always chasing virality, but singles and doubles are great. They keep you afloat and they keep your brand relevant, and they're oftentimes a lot easier to produce.
Distribution's everything. Just look at the bigger AI space. Apple is the distribution engine to billions of people, and they're not building AI. They're going to use other people's AI, and they're going to be the toll booth. Distribution is everything. It's analogous, different, but... All right, so I've got a question. We're going to throw that one away. We're going to go to something different that these guys don't know is coming. This is always fun when we do this on panels. So we've got 2 Brits, 3 Americans, but 2 Americans to answer the question. I'm going to give you some facts, and I'm going to ask you a question. All right? Fact: most Premier League clubs have comment protection and have it, or had it, for 3 to 5 years. Technology removing all the comments. No one's swiping it away anymore. There's 4 UK and EU clubs, football, aka soccer, that have publicly released a social code of conduct. So this is a major club in the world coming out and saying, we are transparently saying we will not accept this, not in our stadium, not in the pitch, and not in our social channels. Very transparent. So 4 or 5 big time name brand, global brand clubs have done that. Arsenal Football Club has put people in jail and or ticket banned them for racist comments online. So real world consequences where you're no longer anonymous behind a keyboard. That's game changing. You can remove the comments and then you can go deter people. I'm not aware of any NFL, NBA, NHL, etc. Sorry, Caroline. I'm not aware of any team or club or league promoting a social code of conduct in the United States, ticket banning somebody or putting them in jail. Half the leagues I know from talking to them, or less, are using technology like we're talking about on stage. So the question with those facts is the UK well ahead of the US on approaching and sophisticated approach to comment sections and truly tackling abuse online?
I'm biased, but I'll say yes.
Why? Because the facts?
Yeah, I mean, again, we've like in the stadium when someone is shouting abuse and they get ejected and they get a ticket ban, we believe we had a responsibility to do the same online because people, in a way, millions more see those comments. So we really felt like, as a digital team, as a marketing team, we felt like we had a responsibility to match that and to do the same. But to your point, the word you used there, deterrent, it really is a deterrent. So we had a campaign called Hatred, which every match day, before, halftime, and after, we would post to remind people. And then the code of conduct, when we released that a couple of years ago, became the sort of second iteration of that, where we spelled it out exactly what was acceptable, what was unacceptable, and importantly, gave people the vehicle to report. So I think that was what was missing in our campaigning was no way for fans to report when they see something, to report it, and just have the comfort that someone's going to take care of that, someone's going to look after it.
So just the fact you guys were on that, you were on that years ago, put you a little bit ahead. Let's get the American Jared's perspective here across the pond.
As you were asking the question, Eric, I was trying to process if this was a trick question, because I think the answer is obvious that the UK is ahead of us. It's a little embarrassing, actually, as an American, that none of our sports teams have a code of conduct. And I went to thinking about why that might be, and my best guess is something to do with money or revenue. But I obviously don't know that. But I applaud, if I could talk here, I applaud the Premier League clubs that do have a code of conduct that are protecting their fans. And to me, that makes sense, not only as humans, but also I think it's going to lift up those clubs and they're going to end up making more revenue anyway.
I think to your point, we looked at the commercial side as well. If you think about any brand who's about to sponsor your team, it's a massive check they got to write, and it's really scary, and they have to be dead sure that it's the right check to write. And if they're looking at your socials and it's full of toxicity and abuse, they're not gonna write that check.
That's a great point.
So the code of conduct, the hatred campaign, everything that we did, there was a commercial drive behind it as well.
There's a moral imperative. We're all humans.
Yeah,
Like money
that
talks.
starts with that.
That's kind of Jared's answer. A lot of money, big sponsorships. They want a certain environment. You think that's the driver. All right. 60 seconds, Josh.
I'll try and keep it briefer than that. I actually think it's a sport thing. I think in football/soccer, particularly in the UK, there is a big pressure because it makes news every time there are incidents off the pitch in stadiums, and that also forces the moral compass to basically suggest that something needs to be done, and therefore it puts pressure on. It goes to local and then national government levels as well, so it gets a lot of airtime, and therefore people have to be seen to be doing something about it, even if they wouldn't otherwise.
Moral compass plus monetization. It's both, right? And maybe the No Room for Racism, 5, 6, 7-year campaign now in the Premier League has been a driver of that as well, if you haven't seen that. 21 seconds. What do you got?
I agree. I think you're light years ahead. I just also know that how much stuff has gone out of the comment section and into private DMs, like with our players after a loss. You miss a field goal, everything that's coming there, you lost the game. How do you also protect them from that? I think that betting has caused that to increase. And so it's really working with athletes too to protect their piece and protect their accounts, because you can't control everything and stuff's going to come through and you're going to see it. And how do you react to that and make sure that they're set up in a place to make sure that they can handle themselves, and it's really an impact on mental health for them.
Sports betting, I can't believe we got this far without mentioning it as we're over time, but that is such a major driver of what's going on. And we're releasing DMs here shortly just because of that, to moderate, to engage, whatever it might be. But even though I was challenging you guys against each other a little bit, I have to say everyone on this stage has been using this technology for 4, 5, 6 years. So you guys all are trailbreakers. You've all led the space. So even though maybe the UK is ahead according to the panel, I think all you guys have mad respect for what you've done. So that's it. Thank you guys very much. Hey, we appreciate it, everybody, for listening.